Welcome, everyone. Good evening. This is Unsanctioned, and this is our special Donald Trump DeSantis discussion. We have several guests with us that are going to join us here online. We have Nick Caterano, Jose Castillo, Angelica McKinney, Joseph Molnar, Cheyenne Rio Frio. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. But as usual, we're going to say a real quick little prayer here before we get started on our show. Nick, go ahead and start us off with a prayer if you don't mind.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come before your throne of grace. We thank you for your many blessings. We thank you, Lord, that with your spirit we have discernment in the world. And we pray, Lord, that you would speak through all the guests and through everybody here today, Lord, that we can help people to think about things, to pray about things. And we pray for our leaders. We pray for DeSantis. We pray for Trump, Lord, that with the things that we like, the things that we don't like, but ultimately, Lord, if you don't pull on their hearts and bring them completely to you, we don't have a chance in heck against all the things that are coming at us in this world. And we ask the same for all of us, Lord, that you would humble us, that we keep our heart humble and keep our eyes towards you, Lord, that you would lift us up and give us the wisdom and the discernment to follow your will and to bring your voice always. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you guys for humoring our little show tradition there and starting the show with a prayer. Now, we're going to, Nick, why don't you go ahead? We're going to, you guys introduce yourselves one at a time. Let's start with Nick. So, Nick, just tell us who you are, what you do, what your involvement is politically, who you support, and 2 reasons why you support that person. And if you're not completely decided, you can say, I'm leaning this way or I'm leaning that way. 30 seconds, please.
In 30 seconds, okay. So my name is Nick Caterano. A lot of people know me from my stance against Disney over the mandates. I got a website, upvaccine.com. As a result of standing against mandates, then it moved into discrimination and wokeness and all things, actually, just fighting back. So I'm just kind of like an activist. I've been pretty heavily involved with the DeSantis camp and speaking with him in places like Laura Ingraham, as Jose has. Also as well, talking about the woke issues and being in press conferences. But through the process, I have trouble with both candidates right now, and there's things I like about both candidates, so I'll probably just elaborate a little bit more when you ask me those questions.
Okay, fantastic. Jose Castillo?
Hey, thank you guys for having me on the show. I'm Jose Castillo, former Republican candidate for Congress in Florida's District 9. And just like Nick, my claim to fame is standing up to the wokeness over that at Disney. I'm also the chairman for the Osceola Republican Liberty Caucus, and also the chairman for the Patriotic Legal Immigrants USA, and very involved with the Republican National Hispanic Assembly of Florida. I'm with Trump. I support both candidates. I supported DeSantis for governor, but that's where I want him. I want him in Tallahassee, and I want Donald Trump in the White House.
All right, thank you. Angelica?
Hold on, there we go.
Okay, can you hear me there?
Yes.
Oh, all right. So I'm Angelica McKinney. I'm with the Florida Republican Assembly in Osceola County and the chapter president. And where my stance at right now is I'm with Trump. Reason why is his commitment. He has a good proven record that he is gonna do what he says, because he's done it, and there is a lot of unfinished business that only he can complete. And I like DeSantis to stay as our governor, because that's what and many of us voted for him to be governor for the next 4 years. And I do hope that he finish his term as he campaigned for.
Okay. Joseph? By the way, we did these alphabetically. Nick went first because Nick has limited time. That's how we did this. So sorry, Cheyenne, that you're last. That we're That's coincidental. All right, Joe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joseph Molnar. I've been involved in politics, working in politics since 2014. worked on President Trump's presidential campaign in 2016 and 2020. Actually, that hanging up behind me is the invitation and tickets to the inauguration in 2017. I worked for Governor DeSantis' reelection campaign last year. I worked for many campaigns across the country, also doing digital work for them, raising millions of dollars for different Republican candidates across the country. I am supporting Governor DeSantis for President of the United States, really for a couple of reasons, but two big reasons. One, abortion. I am solidly pro-life, and there has not been a single candidate in this race that is more pro-life than Governor DeSantis. And the second is, Governor DeSantis is a proven winner, and I'd like to win the White House back and take control back from Joe Biden and the Democrats.
All right, awesome, thank you. And Cheyenne Rio Frio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cheyenne Rio Frio. I am a mom, a nurse. So just like the first speaker, so glad to have Governor DeSantis as my governor, since he fought hard to ensure that nurses didn't have to get vaccine mandates to work. I am the state secretary of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly, and I was just voted the vice chair of the Osceola Republican committee out of Osceola County. So I'm a Florida. I represent Florida. We worked hard to get Governor DeSantis reelected. I think he has what this country needs. So I am Team DeSantis, but in 2016, I voted for Trump. And if he is my primary candidate, then it's going to be Trump. But Team DeSantis till then.
Great. And I am Jon Arguello, school board member Jon Arguello with UNsanctioned, and here with me is citizen Tom Lord. Tom Lord and I have discussed this at length, really. Tom, why don't you go first?
Well, let me just start off by saying, there are other candidates in this race that have joined the primary, and we have two more on the way, probably.
At least.
We can all agree at this point that Vivek Ramaswamy has 0% chance of winning this primary, correct? Can we all agree on that?
Yes.
Can we all agree that Mike Pence has 0 chance of winning this primary?
Yes.
Can we agree that Chris Christie has 0% chance of winning?
Yeah. I think
And so on and so forth. We can keep going with these other folks, Tim Scott, and these are great Republican. Well, for the most part, they're great Republicans. Tim Scott, but these guys really don't have a chance. It's really between Governor DeSantis and President Trump. I don't feel like right now is the time to abandon the MAGA movement. President Trump has proven what he could do over his presidency until COVID came. COVID ruined that for him. I think there was a lot of directions. No one knew what to do at that time. But we had, basically 4 years without war. We had prosperity like we hadn't seen in a long time. And I think we need that back again. So I'm with Trump.
Yeah. I'm leaning Trump, and I guess my reasonings are twofold. First, I think that he's made some missteps during the legislative season. Now, he's a big winner with the Florida legislature, but there's a couple of missteps that I didn't like, how particularly they seemed like really out of place. They make me hesitant. Number two is just his actions here in Osceola County, or lack of action in Osceola County. He didn't really get involved in Osceola County at all. He kind of abandoned us in Osceola County, which we could have picked up a Senate seat, right? We could have done a lot better in Osceola County. So I felt like we've been stranded out here on an island and abandoned. So but that's not the only reason. It's really about why. Why would you leave us abandoned? And then the reasons that we can speculate as to what those reasons are the reasons why I hesitate to support DeSantis for the president, because there's going to be a lot more of that going on in D.C. than there is here.
I feel a little bit jilted because I voted for Governor DeSantis to be the governor. I love him as our governor. I think he's done a fabulous job. I couldn't imagine what we would have gotten if we had gotten the alternative. But I want him to stay the governor.
Yeah.
You know, it's nothing against him. I think that he's been a great governor, like I said, but, you know.
Well, I think that's something
just
that
me.
we can also all agree on too, right? Is that if he's the governor and he stays the governor for 4 years, then we'd all be happy about that.
Yeah.
Let's go to Nick Carterano. Nick, I know that you're on limited time, so why don't you tell us? I know that he's had a lot of big successes in the legislature. The things that make me hesitate about the legislative victories, I think that you know as well as anyone. So why don't you kind of explain those to us?
Are we talking about DeSantis?
Yes.
Yeah, and those that's. Let me lead into that. So
Sure.
I agree with everything you guys are saying. I look at Trump. I look at his presidency. I look at what he brought to the world. It was one of the greatest presidencies, I feel. You know, regardless of, you know, I wish he would have taken some more opportunities to tone it down at times.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that with the COVID and bringing on warp speed and still not owning it, still not calling out all the harm that was done and calling for accountability of the people that did it to us has really kind of dampened my that's one thing I'm really holding against him right now. And rather than picking anybody, I want them to earn it. I want them to really, you know, I want to move the needle by holding out, and I'm hoping more people will hold out and really
That's a great
them
point.
and force them into the debate and not getting into the camps. Let them get out there and slug it out and make some promises and come to some reality. With DeSantis, you know, my concerns with him, even when I was very supportive of him, he has not gone on the big stage. You know, Trump still has that ability to go out on the big stage, and he's proved himself. He's kept all these leaders in check. The world was pretty much at peace while he was out there. We don't know what the governor could do yet on that big stage. And with the bills, as you mentioned, I could just, you know, there was a lot of problems with the election bills that they did. There were a lot of good things that were gained, that were rolled back and taken away from us. There were a lot of things that kept us out of the process, which was really disappointing. But with the SB 252, there's some real poison pills in that bill that people were cheerleading. And one of them, for one thing, is that we can go under the WHO by rule or executive order, and we have no idea who's coming in. And why something like that is just even left on there. And there's a lot of other things in that bill. But I'm really concerned that for somebody who seems to get it now and who has, you know, he's come from encouraging people to get vaccinated, supporting the lockdowns, to being one of the most vocal governors who we can really get behind. And he's done so many wonderful things on face value, you know, and stood for a lot of the right things. Just in that medical freedom space, it's hard to understand how somebody can let that language stand, even as we have a lot of us on the grassroots brought a lot of attention, made a lot of noise about it, and still that legislation passed. And when I have gone and voiced my concerns behind the scenes, I confirmed today, I'm at the homeschool convention and I have some real political savvy people here. They said the real battle was with the Senate. So DeSantis says he wanted different things. He wanted more robust legislation in 252, but the Senate wouldn't give it to him. I heard other things behind the scenes, but my problem, I think, is, John, as you said, is that if the Senate was able to twist his arm and he could not get out and use the bully pulpit to fight for what he wanted, fight for us, and to get rid of those poison pills in the bill, how's he going to do it on the big stage? So, you know, there's still time to do a special legislation. There's still time to get out there and say, hey, this is not good enough. So I would hope that he would lead the way, and that would change my mind a little bit. But we really can't give anybody our total love until they can prove that their weaknesses are going to be shored up, because there's a world out there ready to gobble us up, and we need people that are totally sold out for us. And that are going to fight tooth and nail, and in truth, not just on surface, not just for a headline, but for us the people.
Yeah, those are great points, Nick. What do you think about the legislative season? I agree with you, the thing is that we had legislation that was in place which would have protected us at a much deeper level with 252. It got rolled back into 222, and so Joseph, do you want to address those issues for DeSantis? Do you think that he covers those?
I apologize. I was not able to hear the bit about what Nick was saying.
So, do you think that DeSantis, one of the things that Nick mentioned or highlights as the differences between DeSantis is that during the medical freedom bill 222, he basically got pushback from the Senate, and so if he got pushback from the Senate on that, don't you think that he's going to go to DC and have trouble pushing the things that we really want, even that he thinks he wants or that he does want with the United States Senate?
No, I don't think so, because there's quite a few things that he's gotten done that many in the state legislature opposed. He got permitless carry done. He got originally the 15-week abortion bill done in the middle of campaign season last year, and then did one even better and got a 6-week abortion ban done, which many in Tallahassee are opposed to that, and unfortunately a lot of establishment Republicans that are currently running for president are opposed to that. And he also is taking the fight to Disney, which a lot of people in Tallahassee, again running for president, Donald Trump included, has said that he needs to back off Disney, but he's not doing that. So I think there's a lot of things that Governor DeSantis can get done when he gets to DC, and I don't see him backing down from anything.
So let me talk a little bit about our situation in Osceola, right? I can see exactly. First of all, I was paying attention to the 252 bill. I was paying attention to constitutional, what we were all hoping would become constitutional carry, ended up being permitless carry. But if I do feel like he kind of does get an influence, because he has been locally influenced. The whole reason he stayed out of Osceola was because of influence. And I don't know if it was just because of money and politics. Obviously, people need money, so you fundraise. You go to the fundraisers. You don't go to anybody else, or whatever reasons. We can all speculate on why that would be that he abandoned Osceola County. But for example, if let's say Florida comes, he becomes president, is he going to ignore Florida the way that he ignored Osceola County? Or, even a more left-leaning state just abandon those states and not get anything done there. So you have a real diametrically opposed country where you have states that are really operating like we are here in Florida because DeSantis does what he wants to do and it's all worked out great. And then you have states like California. Now, what we would hope, right, at least me as an American, I hope that across the country we get all these things done. Or are we going to continue living in silos? And let me ask, any one of you can answer that question. And then my other question, I just wanted to ask, who do you think is more conservative between the two? Anybody can pick up any of those two answers. Angelica, why don't you answer?
Yeah.
John.
Or go ahead, Jose.
Yeah. So John, earlier you said about the governor not being involved in Osceola County, whether by choice or whatever. And you said that we could have picked up a Senate seat, right? Florida Senate seat 25. And the fact of the matter is this: we could have picked up a congressional seat, because if you think about it, right? So like in my race, when I was running for Congress in Florida District 9, one of my opponents did not qualify for the ballot, and it was a technical issue. They filled out the wrong form, which is, it's a Florida statute. It's a law that says this is what you need to fill out, and there's specific reasons why. You gotta say that you have an oath that you're gonna uphold the Constitution of the United States. So that's the form that was not filled out. So my question is this, right? So DeSantis did not get involved in that. The state did not uphold Florida law. They basically allowed a judge to say we're gonna overlook this law. But think about it, right? Does anyone here believe that if in the upcoming primaries for president, if the Trump campaign follows the wrong form, does not follow the correct form under Florida law to get on the ballot, that Trump would actually end up in the ballot and they would allow a judge to overlook Florida law? I highly doubt that, right? So if it was a race affecting the governor, he would have stepped in, but it was down here in Osceola County. And I think that was a failure. He's our governor, right? He's supposed to look out for this state and election integrity in the state. Now, Nick was mentioning about the vaccine mandates, and sorry, his stance on the vaccine and how the governor did stand up for us, right, for our rights. But there was a lot of people in the Florida legislature, Republicans, who actually voted the way that we would have wanted them to vote, and they stood with the governor. However, they were completely silent up until voting for the bill, right? So like I would go on social media, I would reach out to my elected officials, representatives and state senators, and ask them, hey, there's a lot of people reaching out to me. I work at Disney and I was running for Congress, and they're asking me, can you do something about, they're requiring us to get vaccinated. Oh, we were reaching out to all these elected officials, and they were all zero. There was no noise, nothing coming out of them up until they voted, right? And based on the party, how the party leadership sounds like it. So shouldn't I would think that someone who's in charge of the state would be like the biggest cheerleader and motivating the troops to go out there and be loud and speak for the people and not just vote as leadership tells them to vote. I that's one of the things that I admire about Trump, that Trump will call out Republicans and Democrats left and right, however he sees fit. He's not waiting for someone to tell him how to call the shots. So those are some of the things we did hear Governor DeSantis saying, if there's a bill that's for constitutional carry, I will sign it. Well, how come we didn't get that? If that's what he wanted, why did we not get that? So, so those are some of my concerns.
Cheyenne, do you think that that's fair? Do you think that this is what do you think the difference is going to be between speaking up as a governor to your own state legislature, which answers to you, where you have the veto pen, and the United States Senate and the United States House of Representatives, which are obviously far more powerful and intimidating and well-funded?
I'm hearing what everybody's saying. It's kind of hard when you're in a leadership type position. You need to sort of say, this is what I want, but also have to be able to accommodate to certain situations. And you can yell and scream like a madman, but if you don't have enough votes, then you don't have enough votes. And I think that shows a sign of emotional intelligence and knowing how to read the room and taking your L's and taking your W's. I know that he was instrumental in making sure that hospitals that took, the federal system wanted to, if they took CMS money, they wanted to make sure, that everybody got mandated, a certain amount of percentage of employees needed to be mandated. And it was because of Dr. DeSantis, Lord have mercy, I gave him a new title. Governor DeSantis had that and saying, Florida, we're not going to allow that. That allowed my hospital to be more lenient with our religious exceptions. But I know that in New York and et cetera, they weren't as lenient. And that is a direct leadership from the governor without having to insult everybody and their mother. Because when you're a leader, you shouldn't have to insult everybody and their mother. You should be able to get things done in a diplomatic, emotional, intelligent way.
So, Angelica, I'm gonna come to you, but I got two questions for that, right? Speaking of reading the room, right? Number one, I think some of these Republicans and some of these Democrats, they need to be insulted. They haven't been insulted enough times in their career for the amount of results and work that they've done for us. But
especially here in Osceola.
Especially here, yeah, exactly. But speaking about reading the room, right? I've heard one of the most common conversations that I've heard with people who are having the same conversation with their friends and families is, speaking of reading the room, a lot of people are saying, you just ran for governor. It hasn't even been, 2 years, and now you're running for president. We want you to stay, and we want you to run after Trump. We don't want you to split. We want Trump to go first. We want Trump to finish his term that we feel was stolen from him, and we want you to go next. I hear that more often than I hear anybody saying, I want Trump or I want DeSantis. Is that I hear people saying, I want both, but I want them in this order. So, Angelica, do you think that he's reading the room? Do you think that's a common consensus? What have you heard on the street?
So, oops. Can you see me there?
Yep.
So what I do see is that many people has approached him, whether it is by email, whether it is just individually, or as a group, as an organization, and um, they ask him just to please not do it now, just wait until 2028. So if we're gonna talk about being polite, pretty much I think every Republican has been polite about it. Just to wait, and the main reasons have been given to him. If you look at the social media posts now that he has announced, the message is the same. I mean, I mean, there is, of course, there's going to be some that will say, "Oh yes, let's go with DeSantis." But if you read the message, no one is really attacking him in a bad way. The message is consistent.
Well, except for Trump. Sorry to
2020.
interrupt you, but except for Trump and DeSantis and their advisors, they're attacking each other like crazy. But none of the people who really
They're
want them
gonna-
to win are really attacking anybody.
Correct, but the people, like we the people,
Yeah.
are asking him, wait, it's not your turn, it's not your time. And so I don't know if he avoided trying to do the announcement in a setting that maybe he was going to try to avoid the MAGA people to show up. But honestly, is nobody was going to go to be nasty, but for him to see him. So if by email he can see it, if by social media he can see it, then he has to see the people, right? And that's probably is the same thing when Trump and Hillary were running. When you saw the crowd, that's what you will determine, saying, how is Hillary going to win? Nobody goes to her events, but you see Trump's events. So it didn't matter if she had the social media, the news media, the celebrities, it didn't matter because that was just noise. But when you see the people, then that's the biggest message. So that's the only thing that we haven't done yet is really like rally up and so that he can hear us and say, hey, just wait your turn. We voted for you to be our governor. Stay committed to it. I mean, and that shows commitment. I know that Trump will talk about loyalty as far as when he pretty much endorsed him. He's there because of his endorsement. That's one loyalty. But how about the loyalty to us, the voters, to Florida? And he's not listening to us, the people who reelected him. How's it gonna be when he makes it to DC? It's a big question mark.
Speaking, I think that's a really great point, Joseph. Let me ask you, one of the big differences between Trump and DeSantis, from what I've seen, is that Trump really depends on the base to give him his ideas, right? Like he talks directly to the base. He tweets his policies on, to the 81 million people who are following him. DeSantis seems like a very closed circle of advisors type of guy. Somebody like me, even a school board member, I begged for his help from the dais at a school board meeting, be like, hey, come down here, look at this, and I can't, I can't even get an email from the assistant shoe polisher of the governor's dog walking housemaid. But, but at the same time, if I wanted to, I could go see Trump. I would just have to make a substantial contribution to his campaign. So, these two differences seem like they're very, that's a huge difference between the two. So one of the things that Americans love about Trump is that it's like he's your neighbor almost, right? Like this is an accessible guy that a lot of people can relate to, except for the fact that he's got billions of dollars. DeSantis, on the other hand, seems to be more of the balcony, aristocrat type of guy. Although he's not, he's a down-to-earth, veteran, baseball player kind of guy. He's salt of the earth, doesn't come with a silver spoon in his mouth. But that's the impression that is solidifying across the base. What do you think about those two dichotomies?
Yeah, so I actually have quite a lot to say. So first, I actually want to get into the whole the original question about DeSantis and Trump and who's more conservative. So I don't think that, Stevie Wonder, I think, could see who's the more conservative person. Donald Trump banned bump stocks and sided with Dianne Feinstein, calling for assault weapons, because there's no such thing, to be banned, as well as raising the age to buy certain weapons from 18 to 21. Meanwhile, Governor DeSantis signed permitless carry into law. I know, a lot of people are upset that it wasn't constitutional carry, but there's a big difference between someone banning bump stocks and calling for certain weapons to be banned, and a governor who signs a permitless carry bill. Then you have the abortion issue, which, I applaud President Trump for getting his justices through, and they eventually overturned Roe v. Wade. But at the end of the day, after the midterms, Donald Trump bashed pro-life voters and said that the overturn of Roe v. Wade was the reason why we lost the midterms. But if you look across the board, in Florida, Georgia, and Ohio, all three governors won their re-election handily, and all three have one major thing in common. All three of them signed 15-week abortion bills into law in the middle of their campaign, and they all won in relative landslides. Then you look at border security, which we can, say all we want that Donald Trump did a great job of border security. But one, he deported less illegal immigrants than Barack Obama. And two, there was a border wall bill that came up that said we'll fund the border wall. And Governor DeSantis, Donald Trump is attacking him on this, but because he voted against the final bill, because the final bill, which Donald Trump was pushing, had amnesty in it for 1.8 million illegal immigrants, and Ron DeSantis said, no, I'm not agreeing to give amnesty to 1.8 illegal immigrants. That's madness. So there's plenty of other reasons why, Governor DeSantis is more conservative than Donald Trump. But those are just three very big issues. Before you go further, let me address those things because I don't want to forget, to make these points. I think that's something that I've actually said a million times to my conservative friends, Donald Trump, and to my Democrat friends especially, right? Donald Trump has never been the most conservative, the most Republican, the most to the right Republican running at any point in time. He's always been a very moderate Republican. Why Democrats go crazy? The name Trump, the whole Trump derangement syndrome is absolutely a fact because they go nuts. But they don't realize if you look at his policies, he's not the most conservative. But it's hard to argue that he is the most effective president probably in our lifetime, right? And so when you have the balance between effective and conservative, I'll take the guy who's effective. He may not be as conservative as I am, but he's effective at getting all the things done that a conservative would be happy with, compared to people who say they're really conservative, but they don't get anything done at all, right? And so I think that's the real big thing, is that he's never, in my mind, he's never been the most conservative guy, but he gets so many things done. He put conservative judges, right, on the Supreme Court, all throughout the federal landscape. There's judges all over the place. That has been huge. And immigration-wise, he didn't deport as many, but he also slowed illegal immigration down to a trickle in comparison to everybody else. God forbid. I mean, look at it now. It's horrendous. It's a catastrophe, a tragedy for the United States. So let me.
I would just say this much. I mean, I don't think it's a secret that President Trump is definitely not as conservative as Governor DeSantis. But I mean, being as conservative as Governor DeSantis is, if you thought the left went after Trump, I mean, I think that they're going to go after Governor DeSantis even harder and with more further than they ever did with President Trump.
That is such a great point. So here's the thing. If DeSantis is as conservative as we all think that he is, right, and I'm just not making any absolute statements on anything, I'm just saying, so let's say he's a statement, if he is as conservative as a president as he was a governor, don't you think that everybody's going to come after him much harder than Donald Trump? Because, I mean, people have been calling Donald Trump a racist
Well, they hate Donald Trump because neither side can control him.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? He's
that's
not a politician. He's not, beholden to the Republican Party or the Democrats. He can take them or leave them.
that's why they hate him. But here's the thing. So I agree 100%. So Joseph and Cheyenne, as pro-DeSantis people, do you guys agree with that? That the reason that he's hated is because he can't be controlled, and I'm talking about the establishment, not the mainstream Americans who might have a problem or Trump arrangements in the room. And then let me ask you, Cheyenne, afterwards, why do you not like Trump? Like, what's your? I know that he acts crazy sometimes, right? I think that we've all seen him. For me, it's funny, right? But I know that a lot of people, they get turned. My mom can't hear the name Trump. She gets all mad at me. So like constantly talk about Trump at my mom's house whenever I'm there. But tell us, Cheyenne.
So the first question was, will the media, will DeSantis be able to, since he is more conservative, will he be able to respond appropriately to certain questions? Yes, I think he has more, he is able to, even though he can insult somebody intelligently where that person doesn't even know it's being insulted without being rude. And so I think that, yes, they always attack him. And even though, and it's going to take people seeing the responses that he gives and the media saying, oh, but he's such a monster. And then you look and you're like, no, he's not. So I think he'll be able to.
Trump, right? Not
I don't think so. But
at least is Trump really a monster?
Oh, I mean, he's from New York, so it's kind of hard because we're all crazy, so it's different. But I know, because I'm from New York, I come across very, I'm trying to do better, but very aggressive and assertive to people. But the second question, John, was, why do I prefer DeSantis to Trump? I think it's time for new Republican leadership. Let's not forget, Trump is 70-something years old. He may be as sharp as can be, but he's still, as what is called now, the 78-year-old man. We're on a panel with all young Republicans. We are the Republican Party. And I think DeSantis, it's kind of, it's a slap in the face when people say it's not his turn, because who decides whose turn it is, or that Trump gave him a hand. Because he got, I've been a nurse for 15 years, and I love and I respect the first nurse manager that gave me a job, but she did not make me. I made me. I'm here. So DeSantis earned a seat at the table because he went to the Navy. He got to Congress. He did the 6 years in Congress. He ran for office with his wife. Then he, got the endorsement. Fantastic. But he got there and earned everybody's respect, and then got 20 million something votes on the second time around. So he earned it. So people saying that he owes somebody something, he don't owe SHIT to nobody, because he earned his respect to be here. So I think that's something that sort of irks me, people saying he loyalty or whatever. There's no such thing as loyalty. I think that we need to figure out in the general who has the biggest chance of winning in the general, because Trump lost in 2020, regardless of what anybody says. He lost, and I know personally around 25 people that voted against Trump for emotional reasons. They voted against him. I want to make sure that Biden loses. So I'm going to vote for the candidate that has the most appeal to independents, and maybe switch some Democrats. Republicans will vote for him regardless in the primary. But I want to vote for somebody that has the highest chance of winning in the general.
All right, so
I'm gonna say something.
Hold on a second. What do you next?
I mean, and I love you, Cheyenne, but do you honestly believe that Governor DeSantis can pull in independents and people from the left?
Yes, 100%. He got my dad. He got his super Democrat was 11.99. Da 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 da. He got my father-in-law super, super independent. He's like, no, I'm voting for DeSantis. He had all my independents, and we're Hispanics, so I'm still working on them, telling them that like Reagan said, Republicans, Hispanics are Republicans. They just don't know it. We're working on it, but they still said, oh no, I'm voting for DeSantis, and even though on their registration card says that they're Democrat. So it was, like 30 heads in a, they all saying they voted for DeSantis. So yeah, he'll get some Democrats because some people are just party lines, but independents here in Florida, when the NPAs takes up most of the party registrations, that's what wins elections.
Well,
is the
only in
independents
Osceola
and
County,
NPAs.
right? Because throughout the state, Republicans have the advantage now in terms of registration. Angelica, let me ask you a couple of questions, and then we'll go to you, Jose. So for one, do you think that DeSantis owes Trump loyalty, which I mentioned that she doesn't like that people say that? And two, if DeSantis is as conservative as of a president as we know that he is as a governor, do you think that he is going to how do you think he's going to win independents and Democrats? Because I'll tell you one thing, just really quickly before you begin, Angelica. I know that DeSantis won big time, right? He won big in the governor's race. But at the same time, we literally have the worst president in our lifetime, right? So that's headwind. And I know that people hate when I say that. I know, like, everybody's like, no, DeSantis won it fair and square. Yeah, I know he did. But here's the thing. If I get into a fist fight with a Mike Tyson, right, in his prime, that's going to be a pretty horrendous beating that I'm going to take. And that's who really DeSantis was fighting Biden, because you have the worst economy, you have all these other states with a whole bunch of people who should not be in positions of power, like Gavin Newsom and all the governors of New York that seem to be terrible one after another. They're shutting down their states, they're creating misery, they have a terrible crime. You have Eric Adams telling people that he's going to limit how much meat and dairy they can eat now. I mean, when you're looking at that from Florida and you're sitting on the beach, and now you're not talking about just nice weather. Now we're living the American dream while other people are having to look on an app on their phones to make sure that they don't step in poop when they're walking down the streets in San Francisco. That's no wonder. Of course he's going to win by 20 points. And I imagine if that's what Americans are looking at, like they want to live in Florida versus California, then every Republican governor is going to win by 20 points. And the three governors that Joseph mentioned, I would say that they all benefited from the fact that we're looking at the options here, which are Democrats, which are still trying to do double mastectomy, still trying to do genital mutilation on kids. We still have Target now doing tuck-friendly bathing suits for children. We still have Budweiser that hasn't sold the beer. Now they're paying you to buy their beer. I mean, to me, it's. I know DeSantis may have won by 15 points, right? If he was running against a great Democratic president, or a great economic situation. But the fact is, the United States is in a tragic state, right? We're in a disaster. So to be a good governor, I mean, that has something to do with it. Besides, the last guy that they ran against, DeSantis, ended up butt up on a hotel bed with male prostitutes and drugs next to him. So all of those things, you have to look at, we don't live in a vacuum, right? Like, these are all real situations that we're dealing with that helped it come to a 20-point advantage for DeSantis, I think. Angelica, does DeSantis owe Trump loyalty?
So the first loyalty that I think right now he owes is actually to the voters that reelected him, because we reelected him to be governor. And unfortunately, his mind was already set way before even he was sworn in. So it's kind of like tricking us in a way. And then now we're going to have a governor that is...
Joseph Cheyenne, do you guys believe that? Do you guys believe that
No.
he ran for governor and he knew he was going to run for president?
No.
No? And
You
you
didn't
No,
answer the question.
Yeah, he
What's-
didn't
what's-
answer the question.
Cheyenne, what about
Never
you?
answer the question.
Oh, I knew he was running for president.
Do you think that he knew he was running for president, though?
Oh, I think he knew he was running for president.
Jose, do
I-
you think that he knew he was running for president?
He absolutely knew he was running for president.
The moment he won that astronomical, and I am 100% sure Casey was like, I want to be first lady. Yeah.
Okay. Angela, let's go back to you, Angela.
When he was
We'll go back to
when he
you,
was
Joseph,
born-
next. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
so-
Angela. Finish
The
your
question-
statement.
So before even he was sworn in, it's Mark, he was still debating with Charlie Chris, and he was asked, and he never asked the question. That's the point. That's the moment for me that I was like, well, what's going on? Why isn't he answering? He's not gonna run. He's gonna say it. So he already had a plan. So we were his pawns basically for that. Now, if we go back to Trump, the reason why he's governor is because of Trump's endorsement. Now, from the time that Trump did his first rallies in before 2016, he hasn't stopped. Trump has done his rallies to keep all the party together, and he still does it through today. He did them for all these past years, that 2-3 years that he's not president after his the election was stolen, because he was stolen. And he is not keeping that base for then someone else just come, oh, okay, I'm just gonna take everyone that is being already put together, and I'm gonna take it just because I'm gonna take on Trump style, because you can just go watch the videos. You see DeSantis, he has taken on the phrases that Trump uses, statements that he uses, the mannerism that he uses, even signing the bills and showing it. So if you are picking on the 70-some-year-old man, and you are not picking on a 40 or 20-year-old man to build your persona to be president. So he is right now is like who is really him? Like which one is really his character? Because a lot of the stuff that he does, a lot of the stuff that he says is just copying Trump. So I'd rather stay with the real deal than having to go with the person that is just imitating everything, pretty much even the ads, even the, like I said, the style, the mannerism, the hands. So I don't know. You guys decide.
I think that's a fair assessment. He did take a lot of stylistic freedoms from Trump and kind of made it so he adopted a lot of things. I don't think necessarily there's anything wrong with that. He learned a lot from Trump. To me, the smartest people are the ones that learn from people who do things really well, right? So I'm gonna let you answer, Joseph. I'm gonna let you answer why you think that he did not know, and then we'll go to Jose. Jose, we're gonna start on a new topic. And what I'm gonna ask is, let's go ahead, Joseph, really quick. Why do you think that he did not know he was running for governor when he was, or for president when he was running for governor?
So I don't think if he would have won by 2 to 3 points and beat Charlie Crist by 2 to 3 points, I don't think he'd be running for president right now. I think it was on election night when he won by almost 20 points. That was the turning point when, there was talks and discussions going on during the campaign and the re-election campaign. But I don't think that he decided until election night when he won by almost 20 points. And that's when they said, okay, we're going to pull the trigger on this.
So why do you think he didn't answer the question when they asked him during the Charlie Crist debate?
Because I think they were talking and having discussions about it, but I don't think that they had set their mind in it. Because like I said, I don't think if he would have won by only 2 to 3 points that they would have done it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Jose, new topic. Go ahead and think. What points do you want to make from scratch? Because you've been waiting a minute.
Yes. So let me get back to some of these points. So to that last point that Joseph just made about not knowing until after the victory. Listen, these campaigns rake in millions of dollars, and they do polling. And they did polling, right? So DeSantis won by more than 1 million votes. They knew he was going to win in a landslide. And that's probably why he didn't come to Osceola County. He didn't need to come to Osceola County to win. If he would have needed us, he would have come here. And that's why he wasn't so involved, right? So, but I want to say this. Listen, I
You could
think
use
that
another senator in
at some
Senate.
point, well, I believe that at some point the Republicans are they give DeSantis a break, and Trump, they've almost even though they say that we don't watch CNN, we don't watch MSNBC, it seems like they do watch some of it, right? Because they'll say that Trump is he can't close his mouth, or he he needs to tone it down, and that's what the media keeps telling us, right? So I think that we don't give DeSantis we give DeSantis a break, but we don't Trump. I know that Trump is not perfect, and listen, as a candidate, when I was running for Congress, I would get asked all the time by people, and they would say, "Hey, are you with Trump 100% of the time?" And I would always tell them, "I'm not human on this planet. Not my mother, not my father, not my wife, not my siblings. So why would you expect me to be with Trump, 100% of the time?" But I guess that's the way it is. People want you to be 100% of the time with Trump or 100% with DeSantis. And I think both of these men neither of them is perfect. Do I like them both? I like them both, and I support them both. I just think that right now, I would rather Trump in the office. And I tell people this: listen, imagine you walk into a room and there's Trump and DeSantis, one on your left and one on your right, and you have a little booger coming out of your nose, right? And sometimes people are afraid to tell you. I think Trump would be the first person to say, "Hey, go wipe that booger off your nose," And I think we need more of that. We don't need
100%.
afraid of saying the truth. So that's one of the reasons that I support Trump. Now, we can talk about the mistakes that Trump did, whatever. But are there mistakes that DeSantis did? And have we forgotten, right? So like during the lockdowns, yes, Florida is I believe Florida is the freest state in the country, but we did lock down. At one point we were locked down, right? And it took a while to say, hey, wait a minute, this is not the right way. So that's why I think that sometimes Republicans they give a break, right? As far as why the media hates Trump, even though he's not more conservative than DeSantis. I believe DeSantis is more conservative, but there's this saying that squeaky wheel gets the grease. And you know that Donald Trump is loud. He's loud, so that's why it's like they go after him. And you asked about whether I think it was you, Tom, who said, do you think that that DeSantis could take votes from independents and liberals, right? Democrats. And listen, I can tell you, working at Disney, that there's a lot of people who have mentioned to me that they would vote for DeSantis. And this was right at the beginning of the whole Florida parental rights and education bill. So this is like a year ago. A lot of people saying, this is ridiculous. Why would they go after our children? Yada, yada, yada. I'll vote for DeSantis. But as things keep progressing and this keeps, elongated, there's a battle of words between, a corporate giant and the Florida legislature, really. It's not just DeSantis. It's against the whole state, right? So I've heard a lot of really conservative, staunch Republicans who are now backpedaling from supporting DeSantis. So I'm assuming that the ones who are on the left are doing the same.
I think those are good points. Let me.
I want to say something.
Okay, go ahead, Angelica.
Just a little bit on regards of what Jose was mentioning. Sometimes you really need people just to be straightforward and tell you things as they are. And right now, in the stage of where our country is, and actually the whole world, where we are, me as a woman, I probably will lose the rights to a transgender man, right? So when these are the things that we are fighting, and I don't think that it's time to be pretty right now. I mean, you really gotta be strong, and you really have to have a good message and move forward. And when you go and you have to deal with Putin and Kim Jong-un, whenever you're gonna deal with them or have any negotiations with them, you have to make sure that when you do it, it's a one-time negotiation, and that you're not going to have to be going back and forth. And respectfully to DeSantis, one of the issues with the back and forth with Disney, and he has to have a second and a third chance. And because we love him here in Florida, he has done a good job as a governor. We're going to be nice, and we're going to understand that he has to go at a second and third round. But Putin and Kim Jong-un, they're no Mickey Mouse, okay? So you have to have a strong leader that can handle these people in the world stage. So that's what I wanted to say when people talk about, that he's not nice, or that he says things like this or that.
John, I'd like to get in on quite a bit of this stuff. So, one, I'd like to address, the whole comment about waiting and Ron DeSantis waiting his turn. I remember vividly in 2016, everybody was telling Donald Trump and everyone else, hey, it's not your turn. You need to sit this out. It's Jeb Bush's. He needs to be the nominee, and we fought against that. We fought to have a primary and to have that fight, to have Trump as the nominee. So to tell Governor DeSantis now, hey, you need to wait your turn, when in 2016, that's something that we were fighting against because we didn't want Jeb Bush to be coronated. But now it's Donald Trump, and there's a lot of Republicans that are saying, oh, no, Donald Trump needs to be coronated. It is the same. No, it's not. I respectfully disagree.
Because they were all politicians, and we need one that wasn't a politician anymore.
But it doesn't matter who is who. So I think that's the wrong thing to do, as well as, Governor DeSantis has all the momentum behind him. If he waits until 2028, he's out of office for 2 years, the momentum's going to be gone, and a lot of Republicans are going to be looking elsewhere. So I think, if you have momentum, if you're playing a football game and you have the momentum, you're not going to just sit back and let the other team drive up the field. You're going to push back. So that's one of the things that I think is wrong. And another thing is, talking about Disney. Again, we had this same conversation in 2012 where a lot of Republicans were against Mitt Romney because we viewed him as this corporate puppet. And we have Governor DeSantis now who's fighting against this giant corporation. That's something that Republicans really wanted in Trump in 2016, with a candidate that wasn't going to cave to these corporations. And we have Governor DeSantis that is standing up to them. And meanwhile, we have people like Nikki Haley, Asa Hutchinson, Chris Christie, Donald Trump, all telling Governor DeSantis to back down from them. So that's another point. And then the last point that I'll make is the transgender situation. Again, Governor DeSantis is the one that's standing up and fighting against, Bud Light, against Target, against all these corporations. And meanwhile, we have Donald Trump Jr. Going on his podcast telling us, hey, you need to back off Bud Light. What is one of the reasons why you think that he was telling us that was because yes, Donald Trump has stocks in Bud Light. So I don't think that when you're talking about people that could be bought and things of that nature, how do you trust someone that's telling you to back off the culture wars while simultaneously saying you want to fight the culture wars? I don't think that makes sense.
Okay, so let me make a couple of notes that we've touched on. So for one, the whole booger thing that Jose has talked about, I think one of the things that people love about Trump is the fact that he's not just going to tell you that you have a booger on your nose. He's going to tell you Bobby has a booger on his nose, Stevie has a booger on his nose, and they better get cleaned up. And that's one of the things that we like to see. He's like, you go get cleaned up, you go get cleaned up, what is wrong with you guys? If you want to be in the big leagues, you better square this away. And that's like a total businessman type of situation, no feelings, not worried about hurting your feelings. And that kind of segues into what I think people really feel about Trump, that the people who do love Trump, they love him because they feel like this is a real guy, like this is a real person. This is not an act. You know, I know people think he's like the world's greatest entertainer, but he's like that in front of the curtain and behind the curtain. This is him, right? The other thing is that I think in terms of the whole Disney thing, so I'm like an odd Republican because whenever like everybody's saying, oh, I hate how he does that, I'm always like, hey, I like that. You know? So like him picking on Disney, I'm glad I hope he screws Disney until Disney understands that when it comes to politics, you keep your mouth shut. You make your movies, you open your park, you let us come in, you keep it family friendly, or our governor's gonna come and make you aware very quickly that you're not the one who runs government in Florida. I'm a fan of that situation. But he also makes, no, I know, I should have said less, but I could have just transitioned to you, and we'll transition to you next. But the other thing is that what I don't like, and here's, I think, the next subject matter, so everybody, we're gonna talk about the swamp next, okay? The other thing is that and I'm not saying that this is related, it's not necessarily the swamp, but the people that sit on this board, I know some of them. In fact, one of them is a friend of mine who's the best lawyer in this state, Michael Sasso. He's the smartest guy, I love him, I would jump on a bomb for this guy, he's on that board. But it's silly that half of that board lives on the coast of Florida. They don't even live in the county where this board covers. And I don't understand why you pick these people. That one of them, is connected here and so on and so forth. I don't want to go into the details of that, but I don't like some of the decisions that he makes. Like, this is a great idea, and then instead of like getting an A, he takes it down to like a B because he doesn't do spell check, or he takes it down to a C because he misspells every other word in in every paragraph or something. I don't know. I don't like that. And then the next thing we're going to talk about the swamp next and everybody's views on that. But Tom, why don't you talk to us about your views on the whole Disney thing? This is something that I disagree with.
Well, the Disney thing to me is this, I get it. We're all very happy with Disney. I am, and everybody on this panel. But I think that's more for the consumers to decide than for government to play a role and get involved in it. And I understand the complexities of Disney and all that, and I agree 100%. But the continuing back and forth, it's just like, just be done with Disney. That's it. Just be
But
done.
did that happen because he made a mistake? Like they left loopholes, they jumped through the loopholes, and they got an answer back. Instead of like making sure that when you drop the bomb, like if you're gonna shoot somebody, you shoot the kill.
Right.
He didn't do that. He shot, he wounded, they got into a battle, right? I mean,
And now it's going back and forth. It's bad for the state. It's bad overall. I think people get confused by it. They're just kind of like, kind of like I am. It feels like I don't even want to say, but
it's petty, right?
too much government involvement and getting in,
that I down with you. You said the magic words, but what I also would say, I think we talked about this on the show before, it's like, this is what happens when you don't have your ducks in a row as a business, the government walks in, right?
But see, look at what the people have done to Bud Light. And now they're doing it to Target. Target's taking a big old hit right now. And they deserve every bit of it. But
So who wants to take the swamp? Let's take the discussion to the swamp. Who do you think is closer, farther from, not further, farther? Who's closer, who's farther from the swamp? Who wants to go first?
From the what?
Swamp.
So,
I think
I
the
mean,
whole
I could
system
start.
is a swamp.
Oh,
They're
sorry.
both into the swamp.
Okay, Joseph?
Yeah, I think they're both in the swamp.
Do
Unfortunately,
you think they're equally at the same level in terms of
I'm not saying that
swampiness?
they're the swamp.
Say again?
Yep, because there's a swamp here in Tallahassee and there's a swamp in Washington. So they're both in the deep end of the swamp trying to swim out.
Do you think that both of them are, in terms of working with the swamp people, who do you think will clean up the swamp more, DeSantis or Trump? That's where I was trying to
Trump.
DeSantis.
Trump already knows. Not the only ones from here in Florida, because DeSantis will know the ones here in Florida. Okay, but Trump knows all the ones in DC, and not only DC, but already within the world. Which ones he wants to maybe withdraw the U.S. Like when he withdrew the U.S. for many things in the last presidency. So I think Trump.
Like the Paris Treaty?
You have that's one, exactly. So he knows, he already has the list. And one thing that I wanted to mention before is that now some of these candidates for president, they are going to come out with this plan. So how they're going to clean up the FBI and the CIA and the DOJ, and they have all these great plans. But the only reason why they can do that is because who shined the light on it? Who threw itself onto everyone and let them go after him, let them investigate, let them show that there is two systems in the United States. It wasn't none of the politicians that run with him in 2016, and not the ones that are trying to run right now. So I just wanted to make that point, that the only reason why we know how bad all the system is, CIA, FBI, all of them, is because of Trump, because he put himself out there and shined the light.
And how important is the cleaning up the swamp for you, Angelica?
What's that?
How important is that facet of this primary election to you, cleaning up the swamp?
Well, I think this is probably the one last chance that we have.
So on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, how important is it to you?
1 being priority.
Like 1 being the most priority. Okay, go ahead, Joseph.
Yes.
Did you say me?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
You were in the middle. You were about to say something. I was going to go to Cheyenne.
So I think personally that Governor DeSantis is the one that's going to clean up the swamp. Look, President Trump was in office for 4 years. His first act was to put Reince Priebus, who every base Republican hated, as his chief of staff. He put John Bolton in office, Mike Pompeo as well. He hired a ton of Bush administration officials. He hired Chris Wray, who he still, to this day, says he's not sure if he still was a bad hire, while everybody else in the base is saying, what are you talking about? He was horrible. And Governor DeSantis said he will fire him on day 1. So I think that President Trump, as much as he talked about draining the swamp, you look at his 4 years in office, and he did not do that. The swamp got swampier, in my opinion. And then before that, as a businessman, he told us, on the debate stage, very, very bluntly, I'm a businessman. I have to deal with both sides. But he gave money consistently to Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, including Joe Biden, including Kamala Harris, including Gavin Newsom. So you can't get much swampier than that, in my opinion. So I don't think President Trump was effective at draining the swamp in his first 4 years as president. And look, I know, we could say that Trump shined a light on the swamp and everything, but the fact of the matter is, I know Republicans in 2008 that were supporting Ron Paul that were saying the same exact thing, that D.C. is full of nothing but corrupt politicians. And I'm sure, it goes even beyond that. So I don't think that he did an effective job doing it the first time. So I have no faith that he would do it, the second time around.
Well, let me ask you this, Joseph, really quick. DeSantis also endorsed Fred Hawkins. That guy is a swamp creature of the first class. Like he's the best example of the swamp in Florida, right? And I mean, he's like the worst example. He's literally like the worst of the worst of the worst examples. But he endorsed him 6 months after he removed him from office for a felony charge. And then he gave him this job in Florida, in South Florida, as the president of this university. I hesitate to say anything because I'm praying that he goes there tomorrow. But at the same time, I gotta be honest, right? Like we all know that's a horrendous. I mean, come on, that's kind of swampy in and of itself, right? And then the GOP chairman's wife with the board and all this stuff. I mean, those things are swampy too. I mean, do we really have an expectation? For me, that's one of my main priorities too. And that's one of the things I like about Trump. Maybe Trump is swampier than I think he is. But at the same time, at the very least, if somebody comes and they poke Trump, Trump is gonna come all like bat hell crazy, like Cheyenne said, right? This guy's gonna be all crazy and he's gonna expose this guy. And in the end, what the country really needs, in my opinion, is somebody to come and turn over the tables. How much do we really think DeSantis is gonna do that? I think it's a possibility for sure. I think I wouldn't put it past DeSantis to go and do that. I think they'll challenge him. The problem is that his net worth, according to his disclosures, is about $300,000. One lawsuit, and he's in big personal, bad shape. The way that General Flynn was in bad shape when they started suing him because he didn't have the finances to support the battles that were going. They go into. I'm in the same boat. All the times that they have filed complaints against me, I had to go and act as my own attorney because I'm not going to go and pay that tens of thousands of dollars to go defend myself the way that they do. You know what I mean? But they have all kinds of money at their access, and so I don't know if we can just play like there's no good guy in this, right? But to say that Trump did not shine a light on how corrupt they are. That's what I love about him is the fact that he came and he said, "You're corrupt." Did I do it? Yeah, I'm corrupt too because this is what the law allows me to do as a business person. I did it, but you should be in jail, and you could have fixed it over the last 30 years, and then you didn't. Jose, what do you think? Go ahead, Joseph, if you want to respond.
Can I
I'll
give
you
you?
the last word. Let me let Joseph get the last
I want
word.
to give you 2 examples after.
Okay.
Yeah, so just real quick, I think, again, just going back to my point is, Ron Paul was saying this in 2008. I know, Ron Paul obviously didn't win the primary, didn't become president, but we knew, based off of the 8 years that George W. Bush was in office and the 8 years that Barack Obama was in office, we knew probably 99% of the bad apples already. And instead of going in there and saying there's absolutely no way in hell you're getting a spot in my administration, he went out and hired a ton of George Bush administration officials. So even shining the light on that, if you can shine the light and if you see a bunch of cockroaches running around, but if you get down and you hang out with the cockroaches, what are you doing?
I think that it's an issue of you need some kind of institutional knowledge to run the business, right? Like you need an accountant. And the only accountant that's ever handled a budget that big, maybe a slumpy guy, but you tell him, listen, I want to hire you, I need somebody smart like you, but you're a D-bag, right? I don't know if I can trust you. And then you tell me, you know what, you can trust me, the only reason that things are like this is because of the whole area, but if I'm working for you, I'm going to be one of the good guys. And Trump being the guy that he is, that we've seen him be on stage, hire people from the crowds to work in his businesses, he gives you the confidence and then he allows you the opportunity. It's just like it's not like in Osceola County, for example, in the school district, the way that you get hired for an executive position is that you went to high school with somebody's family member, right? That's not the way that Trump was doing it, right? Like he wasn't picking his cronies or anything. He was picking the people that he thought had the talent to do it, and then were giving him their word that they were going to do. Angelica, go ahead. You said you had 2 points, and then we'll go to you, Cheyenne.
I want to give you 2 examples. He mentioned Bolton, and I know that even some of members in Congress complain about White hiring him, right? Because he's a warmonger, but you also need to listen to Trump after the whole thing why he hired him, and he said that people knew, in the world, that he liked war. And because they knew that Bolton wouldn't have an issue to go to war, do you at least think about maybe that's one of his ways of going peace through strength?
That's a great point.
You know what I'm saying?
Is having a big mouth warmonger like John.
They are like, well, you know what? I'm not gonna do this because this guy Bolton, I know that he wants war. So. And then they back down. So that's one way of going peace through strength. That's one example. The next one is General Mattis. When he brought Mattis because he had all these good name and all that. And what happened at the end? He had to go around him. He had to go around him because he was holding everything up. Because, oh no, this is not the right time. No, that's not how we need to do it. And he finally listened to other generals and that's how he got some stuff done. All right. So when people say it's like, look all the people that he put out there, well, now we know who those are, and they are not gonna be picked the next time. And that's what I wanted to say.
Those are two great examples. I think General Mad Dog, if they call him that, is what a disappointment he was for America.
Yep.
His greatest achievement was coming up with a one-liner that the enemies of the United States don't sleep at night. Knowing, they dream of him instead of him dreaming. Somebody asked him, what keeps you up at night? He's like, nothing, I sleep fine. They dream of me at night, And, okay, well, break one-liner, and then after that, he turned into an abysmal sec def. It was just an embarrassment to the Marine Corps and every person who's ever served. Cheyenne?
Your question was, is late. Your question was, who can handle the swamp, etc. I think that they both are strong and confident men of power, and I think they're both, Trump had his chance to do it, and I'm sure he learned from it, and sometimes you got to learn to succeed. So I'm a huge believer in that. When you're a leader, you're gonna mess up, and that makes you a stronger leader. And I'm sure DeSantis also has learned some things along the way, and I think at the end, we just got to get rid of the Democratic swamp, and that should be our main focus as a Republican Party.
Yeah.
Instead, we can debate all we can, but even if it's DeSantis or Trump, we're still going to vote for them. But as long, I just pray that the strongest man wins, and that God gives him the wisdom to take us to the next level, because Lord knows we need it. It's unstable times.
Well, absolutely, and that's something I was going to say. As Republicans, we can all agree that we're going to support the eventual nominee, whoever it is.
Is that true, everybody? Angelica, would you support DeSantis if he wins the primary?
Yes,
Cheyenne,
DeSantis
would you
or
support Trump if he
anyone.
wins the primary?
I will wear my MAGA hat. I just got to find it.
Joseph, will you support Trump if he wins the primary?
Yeah.
Jose, will you support DeSantis if he wins the primary?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would absolutely, without a doubt. Doesn't matter which one of the two wins.
Yeah,
I will be out there. without a doubt.
God knows if we have another 4 years of Biden or
Yeah.
Kamala
In
Harris.
2016, I voted for Marco Rubio, and then it was Trump. So I go with whoever. It is what it is.
And this is an opportunity where probably both can push together on the same thing, Trump. And actually, if DeSantis was actually to be able to do this, it will be such a win. And it's actually for elections, Bill, he can probably just redo what he passed. But if he can get us one day election, voter ID, get rid of the machines, that's how we actually gonna start really having fair elections and cleaning out this country. And he has an opportunity to do it. He has a lot of Republicans right now in his term, so he can lead it if he wants to. I know that Trump, that's one of his goals to do it once he becomes president, but DeSantis has a big chance to show that Florida can take the lead on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something that we were going to ask Nick Carterano. We lost him on the connection, but that's something that I was going to ask him actually. Jose, closing remarks. We got a few minutes, and then why don't everybody give me some closing remarks? Beginning with you, Jose.
Yeah, so listen, I support Trump, but there's some things that I like about DeSantis, and I'll say this, like we complain about the establishment, right? And to me, it sounds very establishment-like to say to the DeSantis, hey, it's not your time. I think anyone can run, right? Why would we tell someone it's not your time? I know that we had concerns about, draining the swamp and that some of the endorsements. One of the things that I would say I applaud for DeSantis is that he fired that DA who refused to do their job, right? So that's part of, to me, draining the swamp. And I would, if I could give him some advice to DeSantis, would be like, I know he said that he would fire the, Chris Wray, FBI director, on day one. Great. Tell me who you're going to put in place. You know, I want to know who that person is now. Why wait till you get there and make a mistake? I want to know now. So tell me now. And then as far as like draining the swamp, we got to keep in mind that these people are human beings. They're running for president, but none of them have superpowers, right? So as far as draining the swamp, that's our job. That's where we need to step in and send them reinforcements and people in Congress and all over, surround them with people who are actually going to help drain the swamp. They cannot do it on their own. So, yep. And I will vote for whoever wins the primary, without a doubt.
Joseph, closing remarks.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you for having me on. I really appreciated the lively conversation that we all had. I'm glad to see that, you know, no matter what, we're going to support the Republican nominee. I personally believe that's going to be Governor DeSantis. I think, you know, his launch was had a little bumps in the road the first 20 minutes, but the 24 hours after, he's really set the stage in terms of being, you know, we talk about being unleashed. He's really done a good job coming out and talking about the policies that he supports, the things that went wrong, especially in 2020. And, you know, he raised $8.2 million, which is record breaking in the first 24 hours. So I think he has a lot of momentum behind him. I think we're going to start seeing the polls indicate that over the next month. And I'm really looking forward to the debates. You know, across the board, every single Republican on the stage, I'm looking forward to seeing what they all have to say. I still think this is a two-man race between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, and I'm looking forward to having a good primary.
Yeah, it was fun when there were 16 Republican candidates up on that stage, and we just saw Trump like just beat everybody up, right? Like, what, it doesn't matter. If you were telling Trump how good he looked at that debate, he would just come on you with a vengeance. And for me, that was entertaining. And I'm somebody who's been watching the debate since I was 8 years old.
And you know, the richness that we have as a party to have so many great candidates that are getting up on that stage that are, you know, willing to debate, to try and run for president. I mean, it's
who are the Democrats? I mean, it's
Nobody.
Biden.
Well, they have Bobby. They have Bobby.
Cheyenne.
I like Kennedy. So, I mean, and it's kind of crazy how we talk about the swamp. You know, there's swamps on both sides, and the fact that the DNC is not having a debate when there are two people that put in their names on the race, that says volumes on the other side. That is the opposite of that is anti-democratic. So that's interesting. But that's why we're Republicans. But thank you, Tom and Jon, for having me, and of course our panelists on this beautiful Friday before Memorial Day weekend. You know, we want to make sure we take some time to spend some time with our family, but also to remember those heroes that gave us the power to have the freedom that we have for today, and we will all fight to continue to have it tomorrow. In regards to, you know, and like one of you guys mentioned it, we have a lot of talented folks running for the office, and that is amazing. The Senator Tim Scott, he's an amazing senator. He earned his foot at the table as well. I don't know if he'll get far, but he's definitely the third contender there, so it was great. I respect Nikki Haley. She did a great job as a governor, and she did a great job as a UN ambassador. So I love seeing her as well. I mean, I'm not that type of person to call people rhino just because I think she brings a lot of nice points at the table. It's nice to have a female on it as well, because it's a lot of men, so it's time for some females to have some, sit at the table. Vivek, I mean, he's out there as well. I think he's going to do some great things. He's obviously not win the presidency, but he's got some great things there. Who's the other one? Am I missing one? Who else is there?
Asa Hutchinson.
I haven't heard of nothing about her.
There is a new guy. There is a new guy with a weird last name. I don't know.
Chris Christie as well. I mean, I heard he did great as governor in New Jersey, but you know, he's all talented individuals. So at the end of the day, we just gotta pray that obviously it's gonna be DeSantis or Trump or whoever it is. that it gives them the wisdom to do what's best for the country. Till then, I am Team DeSantis. It's time, like I said, Trump had his chance. He, in my opinion, blew it royally from a nurse healthcare perspective with COVID. That was his time to shine. That was his war time. And he blew it royally as a nurse in the middle of a crisis. I don't want to hear from the CEO. I want to know what's going on medically from the CMO, the medical officer, or the nurse. And you literally had very smart individuals on your cabinet tree, let's say Dr. Carson, that could have spoke, especially if you're not clean on what to say at the proper time in a very scary situation. I think that messed him up royally, and then from there, obviously, what happened afterwards. And I think his ego gets in the way, and sometimes when your ego gets in the way, it clouds your judgment, I think. And I just want to make sure that whoever wins, that the people make decisions not on emotions, because that's how we ended up here in 2020. This is how we lost the elections in 2020, because people made decisions made on emotions. But also, we got to vote with who will win the primary, who has the highest chance of winning the primary, and has a proven track record of winning primaries. So, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Cheyenne. I doubt that Chris Christie will win unless the
No.
election takes place in a donut shop. Angelica, your closing statements.
John, por Dios.
Well, thank you guys for having me tonight, and be able to exchange our opinions and thoughts and beliefs, and at the end of the day, we're gonna support whoever Republican is and wins. And well, I'm a Trump girl, that hasn't changed. And I just think that we really need him in the White House to finish up what he wasn't able to finish when the election was stolen from him. And that's it.
All right.
Tom, you?
Yeah, I'm still on Team Trump. I ain't even that ship. I think that we need somebody like him to make America great again. I know that's just corny, but it's true. I mean, I don't know that Governor DeSantis is ready. I've seen, the Bush family support him. I've seen, him say some things that really disturb me. I've seen him, support Fred Hawkins, which really bothers me. It's just a lot of things that bother me. But at the end of the day, like we all said, I will support Governor DeSantis if he is the nominee, because we cannot live through another 4-year Joe Biden.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I don't think anybody will. I don't think that America will put in Joe Biden again. Me myself, I was a big DeSantis supporter from the very beginning. Even before Trump endorsed him, I was supporting him, and it was because of something that Joseph had mentioned earlier, the entitlement coordination. It's something that's one of the things people hated about Hillary Clinton. It's one of the things they hated about Adam Putnam, is that he was being coordinated, he had been anointed for it. And I did not like that at all, so I was like, forget it, I'm gonna go with this new guy, and I hope he does the right thing. And thank God that I took the right side there. I know that he was certainly the right guy for governor. He's done a phenomenal job.
Do you guys think they'll toss Michelle?
I don't know. We'll have to do another show as soon as she does jump in. But
If she jumps in it, done.
I think they're setting her for something.
Regarding Trump,
The Democrats are letting there be a debate for the primary, so even if Michelle jumps in, she's not going to get a chance to debate Joe Biden.
True.
yeah, she'll have a good gazillion dollars, though, So,
I really hope that doesn't happen, because
Yeah.
that would suck.
That would be the fourth term of Obama, because right now,
Yeah. Well, and just close out regarding Trump, I think that he has done so much. First of all, I think he should be on Mount Rushmore. I do. I think that he has number one. Our country was flying so high, And you could tell the minute that Biden came into office, everything he said. Here's the thing. Look, I tell this to my wife all the time. I'm hoping she's not listening right now. You always go with the person who's always right. And he has been right about practically everything they said. Right? He made mistakes, COVID, you can nobody doubt that he made mistakes, COVID, but I think the entire world was lying to him. You know, so when you're getting that information, there's only so much you can do. Did he make mistakes? Absolutely. Is he a mistake-prone guy? Yeah. Is he the best PR guy in the world? No, but he's the most entertaining PR guy in the world. He's the only guy who I buy a book of his tweets just to laugh and read them at night. And just, I can't wait till my daughter's 18 so we can just peruse them and laugh together, reading his tweets. But in the end, he has superior confidence. He has superior instincts. You cannot teach instincts. You're born with instincts. He has them extremely honed. I think they did battle the swamp. He got in there and realized that DeSantis, if he did go to the White House, he would quickly realize these guys are far stronger than he thinks. What is he going to do? Take a whole bunch of people from Florida? He can't even do that because we have our own swamp here. So what is he, just trading people? So I think it's a very complex problem. I would love to see 12 years of Trump, DeSantis. That's my best case scenario.
Yeah.
And so I know that he'll be, 2 years out of the governorship, but he can always get a job as a cabinet member, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense for Trump if Trump wins. So right now I'm still leaning Trump. But listen, Angelica, Cheyenne, Joseph, Jose, thank you guys so much. It's been a phenomenal conversation. I really enjoyed it. You guys have really, I know that people have been fighting, so many Trump and DeSantis people have been fighting aggressively, rapidly almost, over this. That's normally my style. But I don't think that it is for this because I'm a fan of both these guys. I support them both. I hope they're both very successful. I pray for them both. I know that either one of them will be a tremendous president, leader of this country, take it back to normalcy where I think the American people want to go. So, but thank you, the four of you. I truly appreciate Nick Ryan, if you're out there. Thank you so much for joining us for a few minutes. Excuse me, before we lost the phone call. But we'll do this again. Also, tomorrow night, tomorrow, say again? Debates, yeah, we'll get back again for the debates. Tomorrow we will have a show, an unsanctioned show, a regular unsanctioned show. Thank you, everyone. God bless you. We appreciate it. Please like and share. And until then,